And most of the time, we all agree on that simulation. It's when we don't that we can learn something.
So I set to work, I got into Photoshop, cut out the dress, put it into a scene with lots of rich hues, and all of a sudden, boom, you can see the dress is white and gold.
Wow.
Now the pixels that make up the dress there are identical to the original image.
Now, this doesn't work for everybody, but for most, the visual context can make all the difference.
What's different here is her skin is tinted blue, the background has blue light cast on it, she's standing in the shadow of that cube, and so your brain says, aha, I need to ignore some amount of blue light that is in this signal that's hitting my eye and render this as white and gold.
And if we flip things around,
Same dress, pasted it into this other scene. Her skin is tinted yellow, the background has a yellow cast, she's standing no longer in the shadow but in the light, boom, blue and black.
Amazing. That's really amazing. So again, the pixels are exactly the same.
Identical.
the dress is a powerful example of how color really works in the brain.
Does that mean we're creating color in our mind, or does color actually exist in the world?
Color takes place in the brain.
Light shines on the world and bounces off objects. This part you know. And light comes in different wavelengths, each corresponding to a different color. What you might not have heard in school is how those wavelengths change when they hit different surfaces: rough, smooth, wet, etc. This signal that gets into your eye is actually a product of the reflective properties of the object and the wavelength of light hitting it. Then that signal is focused on the retina, the back of the eye, where we have about 130 million light-sensitive cells. 3 types called cones are involved in color, each sensitive to different wavelengths of light: long, medium, and short. But that light still isn't color. For that to happen, our brain has to take that 3-piece code from the retina and use the relative response of the cones to encode color. It's not until that signal gets to an area called V4 that we get a neural representation of color that corresponds to our perceptual experience. That's because objects reflect different wavelengths into your eye depending on the lighting conditions. If your brain didn't compensate for this, a red berry would appear gray in a cave, blue at dawn, and orange at dusk. But instead, your brain carefully calibrates your experience to hold color constant. Dogs rely on smell, so they have fewer types of cones and thus see the world like this. Birds need to recognize tiny color differences from great distances, so they have an extra type of cone that allows them to see more colors than we do. And bees need to find flowers rich in nectar, so they see ultraviolet light that's invisible to us. So why do people see this image of the dress differently? It comes down to your brain's assumptions about the lighting conditions. It seems that the more time you spend working indoors under artificial light, which is predominantly yellow, the more likely you are to say the dress is black and blue, because your brain assumes it is lit by artificial light and subtracts out the yellow. Conversely, if you spend more time in natural light, which is bluer, you're more likely to see it as white and gold.